The doorbell rang at exactly 7:40 p.m. on a Thursday evening. I remember the time because I'd just poured myself a glass of Chateau Margaux, the 2015 vintage, and I was settling into my favorite armchair overlooking the city skyline. The sunset was painting everything gold and pink, and I was thinking about how different my life looked compared to 3 years ago. Then the doorbell rang, and everything got infinitely more interesting. I wasn't expecting anyone. My assistant had gone home hours ago. My dinner reservation wasn't until 9. I considered ignoring it, but something made me walk to the security monitor by the front door. And when I saw who was standing on my doorstep, I actually laughed out loud. Not a polite chuckle, a real, genuine, from the belly laugh that echoed through my 4,000 square foot penthouse. Because standing there, shifting uncomfortably under the camera, looking like they'd rather be anywhere else on earth, were the two people who had destroyed my life 3 years ago, my ex-husband, Marcus, and my former best friend, Vanessa, together. The way they'd been together when they'd ripped my heart out and tap danced on the pieces. Marcus was holding flowers. Vanessa was holding what looked like a folder of some kind. They both looked terrible. Not terrible in I had a bad day kind of way. Terrible in a life has completely fallen apart kind of way. Marcus had lost weight, but not the healthy kind. His suit, which I recognized as one I'd bought him 6 years ago, hung off his frame like he'd borrowed it from someone bigger. Vanessa's designer bag was clearly a knockoff. I could tell even through the grainy security footage. She used to be able to spot a fake from across a crowded room. Now she was carrying one. I stood there for a full minute, wine glass in hand, just watching them fidget. Marcus rang the bell again. Vanessa said something to him that I couldn't hear, but her body language screamed anxiety. Good. Part of me wanted to leave them standing there all night. Let them ring and ring until they gave up and slunk away to whatever hole they crawled out of. But the petty part of me, the part that had imagined this moment approximately 10,000 times over the past 3 years, that part wanted to see their faces when they saw me. When they saw what I'd become, while they were busy imploding, I pressed the intercom button. Can I help you? The way they jumped would have been comical if it wasn't so satisfying. Marcus leaned toward the speaker, his voice cracking slightly. Sophie, it's us. It's Marcus and Vanessa. We need to talk to you. Please, please. 3 years ago, I had begged. I had pleaded. I had sobbed on the floor of our bedroom while he packed his bags and told me he was sorry, but he couldn't help who he loved. I had asked Vanessa why, and she'd looked at me with those cold eyes and said, some things are just meant to be. Now they were the ones saying please. I took a long, slow sip of my wine, let the silence stretch, made them wait the way I had waited for an apology that never came. And then I pressed the button that unlocked the front door. Come up, penthouse. Elevators on your left. I had exactly 45 seconds while they made their way up. 45 seconds to compose myself, to remember who I was now versus who I'd been then. I smoothed down my silk blouse, checked my reflection in the hallway mirror, and smiled. The woman looking back at me was unrecognizable from the broken shell I'd been 3 years ago. That woman had been destroyed. This woman had been forged in the fire of that destruction, and she was ready. The elevator doors opened directly into my foyer, a little architectural feature that had cost an absurd amount of money, but was worth every penny for moments exactly like this one. Marcus and Vanessa stepped out into Italian marble floors, original artwork on the walls, floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing a view that real estate agents described as unprecedented. I watched their faces cycle through emotions like a slot machine: confusion, shock, disbelief, and finally, something that looked a lot like fear. Sophie? Vanessa's voice was barely above a whisper. This is where you live? I smiled the way you smile at a particularly slow child. For the past 18 months, yes. Can I offer you something to drink? I have wine open, or sparkling water, if you're not indulging. They were still frozen in my foyer, taking in the evidence of my success like archaeologists discovering an impossible artifact. The art collection I'd built over 2 years. The furniture I'd picked out myself, not because it was expensive, but because it made me happy. The orchids by the window that my housekeeper tended because I finally admitted I could keep plants alive on my own. How? Marcus managed. How is this possible? You thought I'd be destroyed? I finished for him, my voice pleasant. I walked toward the living room, gesturing for them to follow. You thought I'd fall apart without you? Become some sad, tragic figure, eating ice cream alone and wondering where it all went wrong. They followed me like ducklings, still too stunned to do anything but move in my wake. I mean, I did do those things, I continued, settling into my favorite chair and crossing my legs. The ice cream phase lasted about 3 weeks. Very productive. I tried every flavor the grocery store had. Did you know they make one with potato chips inside? Terrible for you. Absolutely delicious. I gestured toward the sofa across from me. Sit. You came all this way. Might as well tell me why. They sat. They looked around. They looked at each other. They looked at me like I was an optical illusion that might disappear if they blinked. And I remembered everything that had led us here. Let me start from the beginning, because you need to understand how I went from being a woman so broken she could ain't get out of bed, to a woman with a penthouse, a thriving business, and the two people who destroyed her life begging for her help. It's quite a journey. My name is Sophie Brennan. I'm 36 years old, and until 3 years ago, I thought I had the perfect life, good husband, great career, best friend since college. I had it all figured out. I was the woman other women envied at parties. I had the marriage everyone said was goals. The marriage was a lie. The best friend was a snake. And the career? Well, the career turned out to be the only thing that actually saved me. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I met Marcus Chen when I was 24 years old, fresh out of business school and convinced I was going to change the world. I was working at a marketing firm in the city, low on the totem pole, but high on ambition. Marcus was a client, an architect at a prestigious firm, and he walked into our office like he owned every room he entered. He was charming. God, was he charming. The kind of charm that makes you feel like you are the only person in any room he's in. He asked for my number during a coffee break, and I gave it to him. Because I was 24 and hadn't yet learned that charm without substance is just manipulation with better packaging. We dated for 2 years. We got engaged on a beach in Thailand while the sun set behind us. We got married in a garden surrounded by 200 people who all said we were perfect together. I was 26, and I thought my life was a fairy tale. Vanessa was my maid of honor. We'd been roommates in college, bonded over terrible dining hall food and worse romantic decisions. She was there when I bombed my first job interview. She was there when my mom got sick. She was there for everything that mattered. Or so I thought. Looking back, there were signs. There are always signs when you know what you're looking for. The way Vanessa watched Marcus when she thought I wasn't paying attention. The way she always wanted details about our relationship, our fights, our intimate moments, asking questions that felt like research more than friendship. The way Marcus lit up just a little too much when Vanessa walked into a room. But I trusted them, both of them, completely. And that trust was the cliff I didn't see myself walking toward until I'd already fallen off. For 8 years, I built a life with Marcus. We bought a house in the suburbs, a beautiful 3-bedroom colonial with a garden I spent weekends tending. I climbed the ladder at my marketing firm, eventually becoming creative director. Marcus made partner at his architecture firm. We talked about having kids someday, traveled to Europe every summer, hosted dinner parties where everyone said we were the couple they aspired to be. Vanessa was always around. She'd gotten married herself briefly, to a man named Derek, who turned out to be exactly as boring as he seemed. They divorced after 3 years, and Vanessa threw herself into her career as an event planner, building a small business that catered to upscale corporate clients. I helped her constantly, introduced her to my contacts, recommended her to every colleague I knew. When she needed a loan to expand her business, I co-signed without hesitation. When she needed a place to stay after the divorce, our guest room was hers for months. She was family. That's what I believed. The affair started 2 years before I found out. 2 years of lies, of secret meetings, of my husband and my best friend laughing together at my expense. 2 years of Vanessa coming to my house, eating dinner at my table, sleeping in my guest room, all while sleeping with my husband. I found out the way these things usually come to light. A text message. Marcus left his phone on the kitchen counter while he was in the shower, and it buzzed with a message from Vanessa that said, "Last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you again. When can you get away?" I stood in my kitchen, still in my bathrobe, coffee getting cold in my hand, and I read that message probably 15 times. My brain couldn't process it. Vanessa, and Marcus, my Marcus, together, the two people I trusted most in the entire world, and they had been betraying me for years. I didn't confront him right away. I should have. Any normal person would have burst into that bathroom and demanded answers. But something in me went cold, clinical. I put the phone back exactly where I'd found it. I poured my coffee down the sink, and I started digging. What I found over the next 3 weeks made me wish I'd stayed ignorant. Emails going back to years, hotel receipts, a credit card I didn't know Marcus had, used exclusively for their affair. They'd been to Paris together, claiming separate business trips that happened to coincide. They'd rented a cabin upstate for a week while I thought Marcus was at a conference. They had pet names for each other, inside jokes, an entire relationship built on the foundation of my marriage. I also found something else, something that would become very, very important later. Marcus had been helping Vanessa's business in ways I didn't know about. He'd been secretly investing our money into her company. Not huge amounts at first, but over 2 years, it added up. Nearly $80,000 of our shared savings had been funneled into Vanessa's event planning business. Investments I knew nothing about. Loans that were never meant to be repaid. He wasn't just cheating on me with my best friend. He was stealing from our marriage to fund their future together. The confrontation, when it finally came, was almost anticlimactic. I waited until a Friday evening, when Marcus came home from work with that smile he always had, the one that used to make me melt, but now made me want to throw. Have probably stolen that too. For years, I'd been working on something on the side, a passion project that started as a creative outlet and slowly became something much bigger. During business school, I'd become fascinated with sustainable packaging design. It sounds boring, I know, but the marketing world was changing, and I could see that companies were going to need to adapt or die. Consumers cared about the environment. They wanted to buy from brands that aligned with their values. And packaging, that first physical touch point between a product and a customer, was going to become incredibly important. I started designing concepts in my spare time, mock-ups for eco-friendly packaging that didn't look like it came from a hippie commune. Sleek, modern, beautiful designs that happened to be made from recycled and biodegradable materials. I had binders full of ideas, prototypes I'd created in my garage, connections I'd made with sustainable material suppliers. I'd always planned to do something with it eventually. Someday, I told myself, when the timing was right, when Marcus and I were more established, when we had more savings. There was always an excuse. The divorce removed all my excuses. I had nothing left to lose. My marriage was gone. My best friend was gone. My faith in other people was gone. All I had was myself and these ideas I'd been nurturing for years. So I finally decided to bet on myself. I took the money from selling the house and sank it into my business, Brennan's Sustainable Design. I called it. Just me, a laptop, a garage full of prototypes, and more determination than common sense. I reached out to every contact I'd made during 10 years in marketing. I pitched to every company that would give me 15 minutes of their time. I heard no approximately 800 times. I heard maybe about 200 times. And then slowly, I started hearing yes. My first real client was an organic skincare company looking to rebrand. They wanted packaging that matched their ethos, something that said luxury and environmentally conscious at the same time. I worked on their project for 3 months straight, barely sleeping, putting everything I had into every detail. When I presented the final designs, the CEO cried, actually cried, and she signed a contract that kept my company afloat for the next year. Word spread. More clients came. I hired my first employee, then my second. The business grew faster than I could have imagined because it turned out I'd been right. Companies were desperate for what I was offering. They needed to change or be left behind, and I was the one helping them change. By the end of my first year, Brennan's Sustainable Design had revenue of $2 million. By the end of year 2, we'd hit $8 million. By year 3, when Marcus and Vanessa showed up at my door, we were valued at $45 million and had just closed a round of funding that would let us expand internationally. I'd gone from crying on my bathroom floor to building an empire, and I'd done it completely, entirely on my own. But here's the thing that nobody tells you about success built from pain. It doesn't erase the pain. It doesn't make the betrayal hurt less. It just proves that you're more than the worst thing that ever happened to you. It proves that the people who tried to destroy you failed. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, it gives you a front row seat to watch karma work in real time. Because while I was building my empire, Marcus and Vanessa were busy dismantling theirs. They'd gotten married about a year after my divorce was finalized. I found out through mutual friends, who thought they were being kind by keeping me informed. A small ceremony, nothing like the elaborate wedding Marcus and I had thrown. Vanessa wore a dress that looked suspiciously like something I'd once admired in a magazine, and Marcus wore that same suit he'd worn to our rehearsal dinner. Recycling at its finest, though not the kind I specialized in. For a while, according to the rumor mill, they were happy. Deliriously, obnoxiously happy. They posted constantly on social media, vacation photos and date nights and declarations of soul-deep love. They were living the romance they'd destroyed my marriage for. But then things started to go wrong. Vanessa's event planning business, the one Marcus had secretly funneled $80,000 of our savings into, began to struggle. The corporate event market had changed. Remote work meant fewer company parties. Clients were cutting budgets. Vanessa had overextended, taking on debt to expand at exactly the wrong moment. And now she was drowning. Marcus tried to help. Of course he did. He'd thrown away his marriage for this woman, so he was going to save her business or die trying. He invested more of his own money. He took out loans in his name. He put everything he had into keeping her company afloat. It wasn't enough. The business collapsed about 18 months after their wedding. Vanessa filed for bankruptcy. Marcus, who had co-signed for several of her business loans, found himself on the hook for debts he couldn't pay. Around the same time, his architecture firm went through a major restructuring. Several partners were pushed out. Marcus, whose attention had been split between work and saving Vanessa's business, whose performance had slipped over the past year, was one of them. He wasn't fired exactly. He was encouraged to pursue other opportunities, which is corporate speak for please leave before we have to fire you. So there they were, the couple who had everything, who had sacrificed my happiness for their great love story. And now they had nothing. No successful business, no prestigious job, no savings, just each other, and a mountain of debt, and the growing realization that maybe, just maybe, the grass hadn't been greener after all. I won't pretend I didn't enjoy hearing about their troubles. I'm not that good of a person. Every update brought me a small, petty satisfaction that I didn't bother feeling guilty about. They had destroyed me without a second thought. I was allowed to feel a little pleasure watching them destroy themselves. But I never expected them to show up at my door. That was a surprise even I didn't see coming. So there we were, in my penthouse living room, me in my favorite chair and them on my designer sofa, the city lights twinkling behind us like a backdrop in a movie about dramatic irony. Marcus had finally stopped looking around like he was in a fever dream. He straightened his shoulders, trying to summon some of that old charm, and said, "Sophie, I know we don't have any right to ask you for anything." "You don't?" I agreed pleasantly, "but we're desperate." He swallowed hard. Vanessa's business failed. I lost my position at the firm. We've been trying to get back on our feet, but every door we try to open just slams in our faces. We're about to lose our apartment. We have nothing left. I tilted my head, studying him. That's very sad. What does any of it have to do with me? Vanessa spoke up then, her voice smaller than I'd ever heard it. We heard about your company, about how successful you've become. Sophie, you're doing exactly what you always talked about. Sustainable design, making a real difference. You made it happen. Was that supposed to be a compliment? It sounded like a compliment, but coming from Vanessa, it felt more like a knife wrapped in velvet. I made it happen. After you destroyed my life, I clarified. Those years you spent sneaking around with my husband, I spent building something. While you were breaking me, I was becoming unbreakable. So excuse me if I'm not feeling particularly generous toward either of you. Marcus leaned forward. We're not asking for money, Sophie. We're not asking for a handout. Then what are you asking for? A job. The word came out like it had been forced through gravel. I'm asking you for a job. Your company works with architects on sustainable building design. I saw the press release about your expansion. You're hiring. He paused, and the humiliation on his face was so profound I could practically taste it. I'm asking you to consider me for a position. I stared at him for a long moment. Then I laughed. Not the cruel laugh I'd expected from myself, but a genuinely incredulous one. You want me to hire you? My ex-husband who cheated on me for 2 years wants me to give him a job? I know how it sounds. Do you? Do you really? Vanessa jumped in. And I was hoping, maybe, if you needed event coordination or marketing help, I have experience. I could. You want a job too? I interrupted. Both of you are here asking me, the woman you betrayed in every possible way, to be your employer? They had the decency to look ashamed. It was a small comfort. Why would I do that? I asked, genuinely curious. Give me one reason why I should help either of you instead of having security escort you out of my building. Marcus opened his mouth, but Vanessa beat him to it. Because you're not us. Excuse me? She took a shaky breath. I've had a lot of time to think over the past year. About what we did to you. About who I was and who I've become. And Sophie, I don't have an excuse. There's nothing I can say that makes any of it okay. We betrayed you. We hurt you. We treated you like you didn't matter when you were the person who mattered most. Vanessa's eyes were filling with tears. They might have been real. They might have been performance. After knowing her for 15 years and being fooled by her for 2 of them, I genuinely couldn't tell anymore. I'm not asking you to forgive me, she continued. I don't deserve that. I'm just saying that you're a better person than I ever was. You always were. And I'm hoping that the Sophie I used to know, the one who helped everyone, the one who believed in second chances, I'm hoping some part of that person is still there. The audacity of that statement took my breath away. She was counting on my kindness to save her after she used that same kindness to stab me in the back. You're right, I said slowly. I was a person who helped everyone. I gave endlessly. I trusted completely. And do you know where that got me? Crying on my bathroom floor, wondering what I did wrong, wondering why I wasn't enough. I stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the city I'd conquered through sheer force of will. I'm not that person anymore, I said quietly. You killed her, both of you. What's left is someone who doesn't believe in second chances. Someone who knows exactly what people are capable of when they think they can get away with it. I turned to face them. So here's what I want to know, and I need you to be honest, because I'll find out if you're lying. Why me? Why come here? You have family. You have other friends. You have a world full of people you could ask for help. Why show up at the door of the woman you destroyed? Didn't exist. Kept telling myself there was no point in apologizing because you'd never forgive me anyway. Same, Vanessa said. And shame. So much shame. Every time I thought about reaching out, I'd remember the look on your face the last time we talked. The way you said, lose my number. I knew I deserved your hatred. I knew any apology would sound hollow and self-serving. So I stayed away and tried to pretend that somehow time would make it better. Time doesn't make betrayal better, I said quietly. It just makes it more distant. The room was silent. The city sparkled below us, indifferent to our drama. Inside these walls, 3 people who had once meant everything to each other sat with the weight of years of pain between them. Stand up, I said finally. They both stood, uncertain. I'm going to ask you each to do something, and then I'm going to decide what happens next. Anything, Marcus said quickly. Vanessa nodded. Whatever you need. I want you to look me in the eye, I said, and I want you to tell me you're sorry. Not sorry that your life fell apart. Not sorry that you need something from me. Sorry for what you did. Sorry for the pain you caused. Sorry with no expectation that I'll forgive you or help you or ever speak to you again after tonight. Marcus stepped forward. He met my eyes, and for once, the charm was gone. Just raw, uncomfortable honesty. Sophie, I am sorry. I'm sorry I cheated on you. I'm sorry I lied to you. I am sorry I took your money and your trust and your love and I treated them like they were worthless. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough to be the husband you deserved. I'm sorry I destroyed our marriage instead of working on it. I'm sorry for every single day you spent wondering what you did wrong, because you didn't do anything wrong. This was all me, all my failure, and I'm sorry. I held his gaze for a long moment, then nodded slightly. Vanessa, she stepped forward, trembling. I'm sorry, Sophie. I'm sorry I was a terrible friend. I'm sorry I betrayed the person who showed me nothing but kindness. I'm sorry I was jealous of your life instead of celebrating it with you. I'm sorry I slept with your husband and helped him lie to you. I'm sorry I watched you build a life and then helped tear it down. You deserve so much better than what I gave you. You deserved a best friend who was actually best. I'm so sorry. I let the silence stretch again, made them sit in their apologies, in the weight of the words they'd finally said. And then I made a decision that surprised everyone in the room, including me. I'm not going to help you, I said. Not the way you're asking. I'm not going to hire either of you to work at my company. That would be insane. Having my cheating ex-husband and backstabbing ex-best friend in my office every day is not something I need in my life. Their shoulders slumped, but I continued, and they both looked up, hope flickering again. I'm not going to leave you completely stranded either. Not because you deserve it. You don't. But because I spent 3 years becoming someone I'm proud of. And the person I am proud of isn't someone who watches other people drown when she could throw them a rope. I walked to my desk in the corner of the room and pulled out a business card. This is a contact at a nonprofit organization I work with. They help people rebuild careers after major setbacks. Rehabilitation programs, job training, professional networking. It's not glamorous. It's hard work. But they've helped a lot of people get back on their feet. I handed the card to Marcus. Call them on Monday. Tell them Sophie Brennan referred you. They'll take it from there. Marcus stared at the card like it was a holy relic. Sophie, I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. Just do the work. Both of you. And here's the condition. They both looked at me, waiting. If you do this, if you actually commit to rebuilding yourselves instead of looking for shortcuts, we can revisit this conversation in 1 year. Maybe by then, I'll be ready to have a real relationship with you again. Not friends. Probably not ever that, but something civil. Something that isn't poisoned by the past. That's my offer. Take it or leave it. Vanessa was crying again. We'll take it. We'll do whatever it takes. Marcus nodded fervently. Thank you, Sophie. This is more than we deserve. I know, I said simply. I walked them to the elevator. As the doors opened, Vanessa turned back. Why? She asked. After everything we did to you, why are you helping us at all? I considered the question for a moment. Because 3 years ago, I was broken, completely shattered. And I found a way to put myself back together. Piece by piece, day by day, I built something. Didn't exist. Kept telling myself there was no point in apologizing because you'd never forgive me anyway. Same, Vanessa said. And shame, so much shame. Every time I thought about reaching out, I'd remember the look on your face the last time we talked. The way you said, lose my number. I knew I deserved your hatred. I knew any apology would sound hollow and self-serving. So I stayed away and tried to pretend that somehow time would make it better. Time doesn't make betrayal better, I said quietly. It just makes it more distant. The room was silent. The city sparkled below us, indifferent to our drama. Inside these walls, 3 people who had once meant everything to each other sat with the weight of years of pain between them. Stand up, I said finally. They both stood, uncertain. I'm going to ask you each to do something, and then I'm going to decide what happens next. Anything, Marcus said quickly. Vanessa nodded. Whatever you need. I want you to look me in the eye, I said, and I want you to tell me you're sorry. Not sorry that your life fell apart. Not sorry that you need something from me. Sorry for what you did. Sorry for the pain you caused. Sorry with no expectation that I'll forgive you or help you or ever speak to you again after tonight. Marcus stepped forward. He met my eyes, and for once, the charm was gone. Just raw, uncomfortable honesty. Sophie, I am sorry. I'm sorry I cheated on you. I'm sorry I lied to you. I am sorry I took your money and your trust and your love and I treated them like they were worthless. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough to be the husband you deserved. I'm sorry I destroyed our marriage instead of working on it. I'm sorry for every single day you spent wondering what you did wrong, because you didn't do anything wrong. This was all me, all my failure, and I'm sorry. I held his gaze for a long moment, then nodded slightly. Vanessa, she stepped forward, trembling. I'm sorry, Sophie. I'm sorry I was a terrible friend. I'm sorry I betrayed the person who showed me nothing but kindness. I'm sorry I was jealous of your life instead of celebrating it with you. I'm sorry I slept with your husband and helped him lie to you. I'm sorry I watched you build a life and then helped tear it down. You deserve so much better than what I gave you. You deserved a best friend who was actually best. I'm so sorry. I let the silence stretch again, made them sit in their apologies, in the weight of the words they'd finally said. And then I made a decision that surprised everyone in the room, including me. I'm not going to help you, I said. Not the way you're asking. I'm not going to hire either of you to work at my company. That would be insane. Having my cheating ex-husband and backstabbing ex-best friend in my office every day is not something I need in my life. Their shoulders slumped, but I continued, and they both looked up, hope flickering again. I'm not going to leave you completely stranded either. Not because you deserve it. You don't. But because I spent 3 years becoming someone I'm proud of. And the person I am proud of isn't someone who watches other people drown when she could throw them a rope. I walked to my desk in the corner of the room and pulled out a business card. This is a contact at a nonprofit organization I work with. They help people rebuild careers after major setbacks, rehabilitation programs, job training, professional networking. It's not glamorous. It's hard work. But they've helped a lot of people get back on their feet. I handed the card to Marcus. Call them on Monday. Tell them Sophie Brennan referred you. They'll take it from there. Marcus stared at the card like it was a holy relic. Sophie, I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. Just do the work, both of you. And here's the condition. They both looked at me, waiting. If you do this, if you actually commit to rebuilding yourselves instead of looking for shortcuts, we can revisit this conversation in 1 year. Maybe by then, I'll be ready to have a real relationship with you again. Not friends, probably not ever that, but something civil, something that isn't poisoned by the past. That's my offer. Take it or leave it. Vanessa was crying again. We'll take it. We'll do whatever it takes. Marcus nodded fervently. Thank you, Sophie. This is more than we deserve. I know, I said simply. I walked them to the elevator. As the doors opened, Vanessa turned back. Why? She asked. After everything we did to you, why are you helping us at all? I considered the question for a moment. Because 3 years ago, I was broken, completely shattered, and I found a way to put myself back together. Piece by piece, day by day, I built something beautiful out of the wreckage you left behind. And now I get to choose who I want to be. I can choose to be bitter and hard and closed off forever. Or I can choose to be someone who believes in growth, even for people who hurt her badly. I met her eyes. I'm choosing growth, not for you, for me. Because if I stay stuck in anger forever, you win. And you don't get to win. Not anymore. Not ever again. The elevator doors closed on their stunned faces. I watched the numbers descend, then turned back to my empty penthouse. That night, I sat with my wine and my city view, and I thought about everything that had led to this moment. The betrayal that had broken me, the months of darkness that followed, the decision to bet on myself, the hard work, the failures, the small victories that built into massive ones. The woman I used to be and the woman I'd become. I thought about Marcus and Vanessa, getting into their old car and driving back to their failing life, clutching a business card like a lifeline. They had a long road ahead of them. Whether they actually walked, it was up to them. But I'd given them a chance, not because they deserved it, but because giving it cost me nothing and proved everything. I'd won, not because they lost, though that was a nice bonus, but because I'd become someone who could look at the people who destroyed her and choose mercy instead of revenge. I'd become someone who could build something beautiful instead of burning things down. I'd become someone I was genuinely proud of. 3 years ago, Marcus left me for Vanessa and I thought my life was over. Turns out, it was just beginning. Sometimes the worst things that happen to you are the best things that happen to you. You just can't see it until you're on the other side. There's an epilogue to this story, because all good stories have epilogues. Marcus and Vanessa did call that nonprofit. They did commit to the program. It wasn't easy for them. They had to start over completely, take entry-level positions, rebuild their reputations from scratch. But they did it, both of them. Slowly, painfully, they put in the work. A year later, almost exactly, I got an email from Marcus. It was simple, no requests, no expectations, just an update. He'd gotten a job at a small architecture firm in another city. Nothing prestigious, but honest work. He was in therapy, working through why he'd made the choices he made. He'd ended his marriage to Vanessa. That last part surprised me. I thought they were soulmates. I thought they'd sacrificed everything to be together. Turns out, when the excitement faded and the consequences arrived, what they had wasn't strong enough to survive it. Their relationship was built on betrayal, and you can't build a lasting foundation on quicksand. They're better as friends now, his email said. Maybe even actually friends this time, without the lies and the sneaking around. Just two people who made terrible choices and are trying to be better. Vanessa sent her own email a week later. She'd moved across the country, taken a job as an assistant at an event planning company, starting over from the bottom. She was in therapy too, learning about why she'd always been jealous, why she'd always felt like second best, why she'd tried to steal someone else's life instead of building her own. She thanked me for the referral. She thanked me for not destroying them when I had every opportunity. She said she knew she could never make up for what she did, but she was going to spend the rest of her life trying to be the kind of person who deserved the friendship I'd once given her. I read both emails several times. Then I filed them away and went back to my life. Did I forgive them? I'm not sure forgiveness is the right word. Forgiveness suggests that what happened is okay, and it will never be okay. What they did was wrong. It was a betrayal of everything I trusted them with, and I will carry that wound forever. But I don't carry it the same way anymore. It's not a fresh injury. It's a scar, a reminder of what I survived, what I overcame, what I built from the ashes. The scar is part of my story, but it doesn't define my story. Not anymore. My company continues to grow. We're in 12 countries now, working with some of the biggest brands in the world. I've been featured in magazines and newspapers, given speeches at conferences, been held up as an example of what's possible when you bet on yourself. The girl who cried on her bathroom floor is now a woman who stands on stages and tells other people that their worst moments don't have to be their defining moments. I've even started dating again. Nothing serious yet, but I'm open to it. Open in a way I wasn't for a long time. The walls I built after Marcus are still there, but I've put in some doors, windows, ways for people to come in if they prove they can be trusted. My mother was right, as mothers usually are. The real Sophie was still there. She just needed time to emerge. Time and pain and hard work and a lot of therapy and about 1,000 pints of ice cream. But she emerged, stronger than before, more herself than she'd ever been while she was trying to be someone's wife or someone's best friend. Now she's just Sophie, and that's enough. Thank you so much for watching. This story took a lot out of me to tell, but I wanted you to know that no matter what you're going through, no matter who has hurt you, no matter how broken you feel right now, there is another side. There is a version of your life where you win, not by destroying your enemies, but by building yourself, by becoming someone you're proud of, by choosing growth over bitterness, creation over destruction. If this video helped you, if it made you feel something, please hit that subscribe button. There are more stories where this one came from, stories about ordinary people who found extraordinary strength when they needed it most. I want to share them with you. And one more thing, in the comments, I want you to tell me about a time someone underestimated you. A time you were counted out, a time everyone thought you were finished. And then tell me what you did next, because I believe there's power in sharing our stories, in reminding each other that we're not alone in our struggles, that the worst chapters don't have to be the final chapters. More of my most gripping stories are already on your screen. Click one now and don't miss the best part. You will love it. See you in the next one.